in there. Not all patients are going to be in a condition where they can advocate for themselves as well as you may have. They may have PTSD. They may be isolated, and they may not, they may not be able to advocate for themselves.
Yeah, and that's the problem. The VA system knows this. They know that veterans get frustrated with the VA process, and they know veterans just, they give up. And that's why so many veterans end up sick or even dying, because they don't have that time or that luxury to constantly contact the VA to try to get in there for an appointment. And the VA system actually knows this, and they really don't care about, whether a veteran lives or whether a veteran dies. They really don't. It's just a statistic for them.
Yeah, it's all numbers. Here's something you might find interesting. NPR did an interview with a former Marine, and he's a congressman, and he was a congressman that was trying to fix the system. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'll just try and summarize it. Basically, he went into, as a U.S. congressman, he's from Massachusetts. He went in to get treatment at the VA, and he didn't mention that he was a member of Congress. He said, gave his military information. He received, I'll just sum it up, he did not receive good treatment, and I'll share, I'll put the link up on social media after, but it's a fairly long interview, and they have some audio here, and this guy, he's trying to reform the system. He's trying to get the proper funding and get new legislation passed. And at the end, they received a statement from the VA about the congressman's, his last name is Moulton, Seth Moulton. And this is what it said. It seeks constructive feedback from all of its stakeholders as we work to improve the delivery of care and services to our veterans. It goes on. We believe we have made progress, but there is more work to do. So I guess without the context of the rest of it, that doesn't... It was one of those things like a hidden camera type thing, except there was no camera. He went in as a veteran, not a congressman, right? And he got poor treatment. So that's a good example.
And that's what's going to, and that's the norm. That's the norm for almost any VA, throughout the country. That it would be great if all of these politicians was to, visit the VA system or send a representative, undercover, to see what type of treatment and care that these veterans are receiving, and instead of writing letters. That's all I've seen over the last couple of months and even the years, that these politicians will write letters. They see something in the news, they'll write a letter. Like Senator McCain just written. All I see him do is write letters. I never see him visit the VA hospital, even after me sending him so many requests. And even though I sent him letters, I'm physically visiting his office, which I've never seen him there, requesting that he show up to the VA. I'm relentless about trying to help myself and other veterans, but he is not relentless about giving that same in return, except, he's only providing letters, and that's not doing veterans any good. Letters accomplish nothing.
And you know what else doesn't accomplish anything is when a scandal hits like it did here when it kicked off. You had every congressman on both sides of the aisle making a lot of noise, but as the primary season heats up, is the VA bureaucracy going to be at the top of the issues list for what they're running on, for what they're promising to fix, or is it going to be fifth, or fourth, fifth, sixth down on their list? They talk a big talk when it's all in the news, but then they just kind of forget about it. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, and that's usually what takes place is when something drastically happens, like, of course, like you have the one lady that's been as the VA director over at the Southwest in Phoenix, who's been, hired, when things like that get into the news, then, of course, politicians want to jump up and voice their opinion. But like me saying once again, is not that that's when they should voice their opinion. They should always continue to voice their opinion on a constant basis and never let this VA scandal, die be pushed under the rug. And this is what I've been seeing so much, and over the course of the years. And we know that people try to say that, well, the VA scandal in Phoenix took place early 2014. I would state that again, that it did not. The VA scandal has been going on for many years. I've been going to Senator McCain's office since 2005 and before then, but more adamantly about it in 2012, letting him know that these veterans are not getting the care they need. Veterans are dying in the VA system. And, of course, there was no action taken then. So I brought this VA scandal to the forefront before it became a national process. Yeah. And at that office, no one refused to do anything or listen to me or pay any attention to me. And I wish they would have at that point in time.
Me too. I bet lots of families wish they did. So you watched it unfolding years before it leaked, and just...
Oh yeah, I have a letter from, still from 2013 that I sent to Senator McCain's office, and also to the VA, stating that these veterans are not getting the proper care, stating that some veterans are dying, in the VA system, including, my involuntary separation. I have that letter, stating that, and it proves and it justifies that I attempted to bring this, to the forefront, and of course, no one paid attention to what was taking place at the VA facility. They didn't care then, and they surely don't care now.
Right, and it's a continued string of events, and nobody gets in any trouble, and they get a thank you when they leave. Like this lady that resigned last week, she oversaw 20,000 VA employees, and she was being investigated because she manipulated the hiring system for employees, and she scammed out of $400,000 basically. And
right, I think the lady you're talking about, is her name Allison Hickey or something like that? I think that's her name.
Yep.
And yeah, that's
criminal
her,
complaints.
Hickey. Yeah.
And Bob McDonald said in a statement, with regret, she resigns. So he regrets this criminal woman that took $400,000 of money that would have went to veterans care to help out fellow employees.
Right, exactly. And, to make matters even worse, we have to also remember that she was a former Air Force brigadier general.
Yeah.
So she was actually, technically she's a veteran herself. So you have a veteran now taking advantage of veterans. And
wow.
that's even worse, when I hear the stories of civilians taking advantage of veterans. It's even worse when you hear a veteran taking advantage of veterans.
And a brigadier general at that.
And a brigadier general. So, of course, she has resigned, to escape the criminal actions that should be taken up against her. And for Bob McDonald to, even write a letter of appreciation on her behalf, that's a slap in the veteran's face. He should not be writing her a letter. Bottom line is, once you abuse a veteran, deny veterans their rights or entitlements to medical care or anything, you should not receive any type of letters of recommendation.
Right.
At all. And especially from Bob McDonald, who was actually hired to fix these problems that we have in the VA system. So now what he has done is he's basically have written a letter to saying that, okay, it's okay for you to abuse the veterans and resign and just move on, and I'll give you a thank you, as long as you're sitting in a position like my position.
Yeah. He said the VA and I personally appreciate all that Allison has done to help transform the VA for veterans. We are privileged to serve. She has been an exceptional colleague and an even better friend to me. Her commitment to excellence and service to our country is unquestioned, and we wish her all the best in her next endeavors. I don't know. It's almost it's just sickening. Completely backwards. How can it's the intent?
To me.
They look at the well, you can't fire a federal employee unless they. I don't know the exact law, but it's based on intent. Did they intend to harm or did they just do something? Did they accidentally help out a fellow employee and get the money? Well, there was no malintent, something like that.
Right.
It's just okay, I want to ask you this. What do you think of this? I think it's a great idea, but I've just, I don't know enough about all of this. You know much more about it than I do, and I've kind of learned a lot from you just in the last few weeks. But what about it? When you look at the fact that 60% of the facilities in the country for VA, the infrastructure, the buildings, the plumbing in the buildings, the electrical, everything's crumbling. It's failing. Why don't they just privatize all of it? Just get rid of under the federal umbrella and let the states handle the medical care and privatize the VA system as far as the health care goes.
Right. Here's my intake on that. As so many credible doctors and top staff members, they just do not want to be part of the VA system. They just don't. First of all, there's funding. You have to supply funding for these top quality individuals. So, and of course, it costs to get these individuals. So that's one of the major, problems that the VA system has is, obtaining and keeping those top quality people that so much of the veterans actually need. And of course, I think Bob McDonald stated, that we spent, I think, taxpayers' money of $7.7 billion last year, to send VA patients out to non-VA doctors.
Right.
But on the other hand, if he called that a loss, but he has not put to the forefront that there's still 31,000 positions that are unfilled for medical staff.
Right.
So even if you did fill those 31,000 people, those positions, that's still going to cost about $7.75 billion to fill. So one outweighs the other. One takes care of the other one. So you're really down to $0. So I agree that most of these veterans should be outsourced to non-VA doctors. They should actually have a choice, and that's why I came up with the option of I call it the Veterans Option Card, that you have the option to go to the VA system or you have the option to go to a non-VA doctor. And while this is in process and taking place, they should make sure that the VA facilities are being reconstructed, brought up to code, brought up to the par that you can find in some of the civilian sectors. The VA system should be the best hospitals in the world for anyone to, even civilians should be trying to get into the VA facilities.
Yeah, the problem is everything the government does, they screw it up. It doesn't matter what it is, education, whatever they get their hands on, they destroy it. And I just think that the private sector does a better job. If the federal government gave out money to the state, the money that they're wasting, a lot of it, if they divvied that out according to how many veterans are in each state and let the local state legislatures and the cities, even right down to the city's councilmen, there'll be accountability for all of that money much more than if it's just coming from one big, it's just, I just think I don't see how it can get better. I want to have hope that it can get better, but the more I look at it, the more I think it's a mess.
Yeah, and I'll give you a little insight on some additional information as well. I've had the surgeries, knee surgeries in 2000, 2001, and 2002 at the Phoenix VA Medical Center. They botched all 3 surgeries. They did never notify me that they botched the surgeries. They did not file my, I had to go to a non-VA doctor to actually find this information out, and they did not file that paperwork until 7 years later. They wouldn't even notify me of it. So 7 years later, and I found this information out, but there was nothing I could do about it because, through the tort claim process, they said, quote unquote, you waited over 2 years from your 2001-2 surgery. You can't do anything about it.
More like they hate.
So what these doctors do is the ones who botched the surgeries and who have worked for the VA, now they're into the civilian sectors. They probably better doctors now after gaining that experience. But then the civilian sectors, you will not find on their resume that they work for the VA facilities. I won't give the 3 doctors' name that did the surgeries for the VA, but all 3 of them, if you go to their website, they have on their bio every place they work except the VA Medical Center. So that should tell you something. No doctors want to be associated with the